All right, we're following the breaking developments on the mystery now surrounding Flight 9525. Joining us now from Tampa, Florida, former commercial pilot and NBC News aviation analyst John Cox. From Las Vegas, former NTSB investigator Greg Feith. And here on set, NBC News' Tom Costello. Tom, I'm going to start with you. Are you surprised we don't have the names of these pilots?
No, not necessarily.
Why? Aren't they usually released fairly soon, along with the passengers?
Normally, but let's keep in mind it's been less than 48 hours. So, that doesn't bother me as much, although now clearly we're in a mode where this may be a criminal investigation, and I don't know what the laws are in France as it relates to disclosing the names of people involved in a criminal investigation, or for that matter in Germany. But we do know a little bit about the pilots, and that is that Lufthansa is telling us that the pilot himself had 6,000 hours of flying time since May of 2014. He'd been with German Wings, and the co-pilot had joined in September of 2013, had flown 630 hours. But what's really perplexing here is the scenario in which one pilot is inside the cockpit, the other is outside. If this was a deliberate criminal act, and by the way, we should note, it's not just now the New York Times reporting this. The Associated Press has a source, and so does Le Figaro. So we've now got 3 news agencies reporting this. If a pilot was locked out because he or she went to the restroom, then normally you have a flight attendant who goes into the cockpit as well and waits to make sure that they can let that pilot back in. So did that happen? If so, what happened to that flight attendant? Was that flight attendant either part of some sort of a criminal act or a victim as well? We simply don't know. John Cox, what do you make of Tom's questions? Are they the right ones at this point? Are they the ones you have?
They're very similar to the ones I have. I've been very suspicious about the single source that reported this initially, but there seems to be substantiation coming along with that. For a pilot to get up for physiological reasons to go back to the lavatory is not that uncommon. There's a protocol that's followed, and that's the question: is was that protocol followed properly? It's very unusual for a pilot to be left in a flight deck by themselves. Additionally, if the fact that the pilot that was outside couldn't get back in, it says that the door is placed in an override condition or mode, and the question would then be why. So there's several pieces here. I know that in France they always concurrently run a criminal as well as an aviation safety investigation. So all of this information is being funneled through both sides, both the accident investigation side and the criminal side. Regarding the question about the release of the crew's names, recognize that the investigators, both sides, have the crew's names, and that a background check on those flight crew members has already been started. It hadn't been released to the media, but it doesn't mean that the investigators don't have them.
I wonder how long it will take for those names and nationalities to be released. Tom Costello, you have a question for Greg? Greg
Feith, former senior NTSB investigator. Greg, you have listened to cockpit voice recorders. You have also gone through flight data recorders. So given this scenario, what would you, as an investigator, be listening for on that cockpit voice recorder in terms of the voices, in terms of the clicks, the sounds inside the cockpit? What would you listen for?
One of the things, Tom, is that when that one pilot got up to leave the cockpit, we want to know exactly why they were getting up, what kind of movements. You should be able to hear their particular seat. It's motorized. You'll hear it slide back to give them more room to climb out because there's a center pedestal. And so we're going to be listening for noises. You're, of course, going to hear the door open. You'll hear it lock behind you as they leave the cockpit. And then, of course, any discussion that the pilot that's remaining in the cockpit may be having with himself. We have heard on previous cockpit voice recorders where there was some discussion where somebody started to chant or pray. So the investigators are going to be listening for that. And then, of course, when the other pilot who had left the cockpit tries to re-enter, the conversation that may be taking place through the door. The one thing I want to stress is while we have several sources now that are saying that this pilot got locked out of the cockpit, we don't know if anybody went into the cockpit after this one pilot had left. So we have to be very cautious that we talk about one pilot being left alone. We don't know that at this point. We just know that one pilot wasn't in the cockpit.
Hey, John Cox, being a former Airbus pilot, you are intimately familiar with the A320, and we should remind the audience that the Airbus does not have a yoke, in other words, a center control stick like on a Boeing. It's a joystick off to the left or the right of the pilot. And so how likely is it, or could you envision a scenario in which the pilot had a medical emergency of some sort and could slump over and trigger that joystick, could literally lean on the joystick and be unconscious and the plane would go into a descent, or does that seem highly unlikely to you?
Well, it's certainly possible, except for one thing. The airplane continued to fly on its track, and the descent rate is pretty constant all the way down.
Yeah.
In the cases where you have somebody manually flying the airplane, or more importantly, the autopilot not flying the airplane, you get a more erratic flight path. So right now, the evidence seems to indicate that the airplane maintained its track, which says that the flight management computer was commanding the autopilot, which was flying the airplane, and the descent rate was a commanded descent rate, probably using the vertical speed mode. But that's where you would get this consistent flight profile that we see based on the information we have so far.
So isn't that also debunked a bit by the fact that John Cox and Greg and Tom, you were also saying that the pilot's not to be alone. So if someone had come in and there was a medical emergency, there would be someone in there with the pilot. The question is why, if the pilot was alone in the cockpit, why was he alone in the cockpit? And if he wasn't, who was in there with him? John Cox, what do you think the key questions are at this point?
Well, if there was a medical emergency of some point, the first thing the flight attendant's going to do is get that other pilot. They're going to open the door. So the fact that that didn't occur, it also adds question about the medical emergency scenario. What we don't know, and this is one other thing when we start talking about the potential for nefarious acts or deliberate actions, every time we have seen that before, they have not used the autoflight system. In other words, they've manually flown the airplane down into impact. We saw that at Silk Air, we saw that at Egypt Air 990, and a couple of others. The fact that the airplane remained on autopilot is inconsistent with what we've seen with deliberate acts in the past. So it says that we don't have all the information yet. We've got to keep an open mind, and we've got to keep looking for that flight data recorder. That's going to be a key element, and we need to wait until the BEA releases information in their press conference later in the day.
All right, Greg Fife and John Cox, thank you very much. And NBC's Tom Costello, if you can come back in the next hour, it'd be great.
Sure.
All right, we'll have you right here. Thank you very much. Up next, from one prison to another, former Taliban captive Bo Bergdahl could spend life behind bars for allegedly deserting his post in Afghanistan and endangering his fellow soldiers. We go live to Jim Mikolashevsky at the Pentagon next on Morning Joe.